Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. We are at the midpoint, just about, of a booktube event called Framed in September. It was the brainchild of Elizabeth at Bokens and Books. She has a number of co-hosts as well. I will put their channels into my description. The objective of this event is to encourage people to read one book about art and possibly to go to a museum, to an exhibition, to a gallery, something like that. A number of booktubers have done so and made vlogs of their excursions. I am not going to do that. I do tend to go to museums often, as often as I can, because I like looking at beautiful objects. I am not so inclined to pick up books. It just occurs to me there's a parallel there with music, although it's not like I'm without my CDs and that sort of thing, but as I've grown older, I've realized I care to listen to recorded music less than actually hearing live music performed. So that and with the museums, I would rather see objects of art in person for real than look at their pictures in a book. But I do have some books with reproductions. Let me show you. This is probably the only art book I've bought in the last 10 years. The Kano brothers in Japan. My partner and I would notice when one of their tigers was on a wall. You don't get to see them too often. And at some point I heard about this book, and so I bought it. But it's not really the best book because the reproductions are just kind of, it's a good reference point if you're in the know and in the field, I suppose. But for just a casual look through, it's kind of a hard book. So, I take that back. I did buy another book. And I saw his work somewhere, and I liked it and picked it up. My partner didn't think it was that good, but it's the Migration series. Try to show you what I showed you. So that. A friend on Facebook felt that these were real important books about art, and I succumbed and bought them. They've probably been sitting on my shelf for a good decade or more, and I have not gotten to them. I have never been a strong reader, but in the last 2.5, now going on 3 years, I have been improving. So bit by bit, I am chipping away at my backlog of books. The only problem is I keep adding to the collection. But perhaps one day I will get to these. Peter Gay, I think I have read some books by him. I don't think art was his whole focus. Maybe about Weimar Germany or something. And this one by Sandro Bocala, I don't know what its reputation is anymore. I'll just keep showing you things. One of my favorite authors, George Holmes. This book is a really marvelous book. It's a coffee table book with great illustrations, but the text is really enlightening. He's a very good writer. So I do recommend George Holmes. And with that, there was another one here, but oh, here it is. This is not really a picture book. It just talks about the politics of the day. This fell out of one of my books, and I don't know which book it came from. Very nice. Brunelleschi's Dome, which I pulled because Brian at Bookish mentioned it recently. I read this quite a while ago and enjoyed it very much. The creation of the dome was quite a engineering challenge, and this goes into some detail about it. I'm not sure that they're 100% sure on how it was done, but it was a good read, probably due for a reread. I don't tend to remember things that I read. So this is The Artist in New York by Orozco, and here's the artist himself. This drawing is by Jean Charlot, and I thought I had a book of something with him, some reproductions of his work or something. He was a French artist who fell in with the muralists in Mexico. There is a really lovely one somewhere in Guadalajara that I don't believe exists in reproduction anywhere, so I will probably never see it. But so this, I think, is some of Orozco's stuff in black and white. I have a nice color book, and in a previous video I showed some pages from it, but I didn't pull it down for this video. His autobiography, which is a definite, this book which he wrote has letters and stuff in it. It was not memorable. I read it when I got it, and it did not enthuse me. But I liked his autobiography very much. It does exist in English. When I was young, down and out in Guadalajara, I had discovered his works and couldn't find this in English, didn't even think it existed in English, and so I did a translation of it. I don't think I ever completed, but got pretty far. And later, when I realized that there was an English version, and I picked it up, I read it, and it turns out I had not missed very much. This book has meant a lot to me. When I was young, I wanted to be an artist, I guess you would say. I took a full year at the foundation program at the University of Illinois, Chicago Circle campus. And it says here, a section on the muscular system follows, including reproductions of the remarkable Albinus engravings, the most beautiful and among the most accurate anatomical figures ever published, according to Charles Singer, who I don't know. So you have pictures with, well, I bet that one might get me banned from YouTube. So with some stuff, and then let's see if I can show you the. I mean, this is what the plates are like. I mean, just really nice stuff. Picasso by Gertrude Stein. I haven't read this. I'm not big into Gertrude Stein. I think this was in the box, though. I probably should put it back. I like this. This was in there. Picasso looking like Lamont Cranston, also known as the Shadow. Actually, Lamont Cranston became only one of his aliases. I forget what his real one in the pulp novels was. years ago, as a young man, I was working at the Field Museum for some reason and saw this for sale there and picked it up. It's a counting book. So you start with number 1. And it gradually builds up. So number 14. It's just a really lovely book by Dennis Nolan. I've wished that I had it in hardback. In fact, I showed this on this channel some time back, and when I did, I broke the binding to it. But I'm less and less concerned about such things as I get older. Bernini, this is a Pelican book. I have not read this, but I do like Bernini's work very much. It probably, well, I can't really say one of my favorites from that time, because I'm not really knowledgeable about art, and my opinion doesn't mean anything. But I once went to an exhibit somewhere where they had collected just a whole slew of his, now I can't even think of what the word is, his sketches, his preparatory sketches, and then his little models that he made out of plaster, I think, or something like that, for proposed future works, and in some cases for works that actually came to be, and little figurines, and all of these models were just so beautiful, and so I think I would love to see more of his work, but I don't think it's so easy to get to see his work without making that a dedicated goal. When I was young, I read this book, Giorgio Vasari. Back in the day, there was only one volume. There was no volume 2, but this is the one that I read back then. I re-bought it in a trade size because it was mass market size. And it is one of my current goals to try to reread this and then read volume 2. I liked Vasari. I liked the stories very much of Michelangelo and Ghibellini and so forth. Good stuff. An outline of European architecture. I haven't really looked at this, but I have a handful of Pelican books dealing with art, dealing with architecture, that at some point I noticed that Pelican books were really, really good. And so when I would see them in the clearance shelves, I would just pick them up. So this is the kind of thing that I would really like to read if my reading improves to the point where I can fit it into my schedule. This is another Pelican, but this is probably one of my oldest art books, and I don't remember where I picked it up. I don't think it was in a clearance bin or anything. It probably was at the school used bookstore. I mean, because who else would have put that kind of sticker on it? And just over the years, it's been a book that meant a lot to me. I never have seen one of his mansions. Let's see if I can find a good example of the style. Here's one. I mean, many years ago, we went to Venice and we were going to, I think it was on a Tuesday, going to go out and look at various mansions. It would have been a day trip, but the buses were on strike that day, and so we didn't get there, and it is almost a certainty that I will never get back to Venice. But having an awareness of his style has meant a lot to me, and it has come in handy in odd situations, and sometimes you will see a building and you recognize right off that it is influenced by his style. Possibly, I saw something like that in Rome or something. Now, Leonardo da Vinci, this is just a little brochure. Many years ago at the IBM building in Chicago, they had an exhibit of all of his machines, I think, his inventions. They made full-scale replicas of them, and it was very interesting. So they took his drawings and then built them. And I believe there may exist more than one set of these, but I believe they were moved to the house in France where he died. It's a whole park now. I think, as I recall, if you've seen these elsewhere, I don't think there's much else except like a building. But and while we're on the subject of Leonardo, I've read his notebooks. I had them when I was very young in a Dover edition, and I like them very much. I found this when I was living in Taiwan as a young man. There was a bookstore, and they had a whole bunch of copies of it. And I was very interested in Leonardo at the time. And I keep thinking it was Cross Books, but the thing says it's Chinshan Books. Well, I hope I didn't just break that binding. Well, it's an old book. And it reproduces his anatomical drawings. So let's show you what you have. And I don't think I've read this one. I've just looked at the pictures. You know, that kind of thing. Alas, a year at the Foundation Arts program at University of Illinois Chicago Circle taught me that I didn't have what it takes to be an artist, I think. And I wasn't really interested. They were focused very much on abstract art. I would have liked to have had to knuckle down. Subsequent to that, I've taken some life drawing classes and enjoyed the discipline, but I never really had that kind of necessary discipline to do that kind of thing. And as far as what the program, the avenue that they were trying to guide us into, it was things like one final project was do a final project that has something to do with light. You have to use light, and it has to be three-dimensional. And I bombed terribly. I didn't bomb. I got a good grade in the class, but it was just it was a mercy grade that I got out of that one. Maybe they were just giving everybody A's, but needless to say, I did not go on with that. I guess that is why I wound it up with poetry. Poetry turns nobody away. So I will, as I say, put a link in the description box to the channels of the various hosts, and I would invite you to check them out for this Framed in September event. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.